Hello, ladies and gentlemen, soccer fans in St. Louis and football fans around the world. Welcome to Atletico TV, a brand new soccer show focused on covering the beautiful game from an international perspective and a local perspective here in St. Louis. I am Josh McGee, honored to be here, a part of this brand new project on Loco Radio STL. Let me introduce the two gentlemen sitting with me here at this table. Over here on this side, we've got Ricardo Garza. Ricardo is the head coach of the St. Louis Community College men's soccer team, and also of Club Atletico St. Louis, a charter member of the NPSL. Ricky, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. It's a great morning.
Now, this was your brainchild. It's your creation. You've been a very active member in the St. Louis soccer community, the St. Louis community at large. Basically, what you're hoping to get out of this, and also just your expertise, where you're coming from in your soccer story.
Yeah, I wanted to create, a platform that unites culture through sport, and that's what we did with our soccer team. The idea of doing a show was about a year and a half ago. Was to kind of have a spin-off. It's not really following the soccer team, Atletico, even though it's AtleticoTV. We wanted it to be a neutral platform for all soccer in St. Louis. And just as we're trying to unite culture through sport, we're trying to unite all the other teams through soccer, and pro, amateur, youth, collegiate, and even the aspiring young players. And we wanted to motivate them. And that was the basis of why we wanted to do the show. And then within the show, having segments of inspiration of what people are doing good in our city to make change, that to trying to improve our city. And it's all wrapped around a creative, cultural soccer show.
And right now, in terms of the teams that you're in charge of, you guys are out of season in both those clubs, right?
We are, yeah. Winter break for both teams. And the NPSL season kind of starts up again this summer. COVID pending right now. It's not looking good for St. Louis. I think other teams would probably play. It's not looking good for us right now. For the collegiate team, they're going to try to roll it out this spring. So we're looking to get things started again in February.
Okay. Gentleman over here on my side is the director of coaching at the St. Louis FC Academy and the current head coach of the under-19 boys team. Of course, he also has professional soccer playing experience as well. Coach Luis Swisher. Luis, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for Ricky for the invitation and being part of this project. I'm excited and looking forward how it goes.
So you are the head coach of the under-19 team, but you also have, your hand in all the other academy clubs as a part of the St. Louis FC Academy. Where are you guys at right now for your season?
Yeah, so we just wrap up our fall season. So we're part of the new MLS Next League, which prior was the U.S. Development Academy, and then did a shift to MLS Next now. So a little bit of a lot of changes in this start of the league because of COVID, but we were able to wrap up a season in the fall with getting 8 games over the season with our, let's say, our conference. As it is for now, no meaningful in terms of competing for qualifier or anything like that. It was basically just to get some games because of all the different states, how they operate in terms of their rules and their guidelines through protocol of health, so it was good to get games, to be honest, and looking forward to the spring, which it will be now, leading into competition more into more a platform to qualify for playoffs or showcase and everything else.
Well, it's great to be a part of the show. Great to have you guys here, and I think that's what our show is going to offer the most. It's going to be a coach's perspective, which right now we're not getting so much maybe from all the other types of shows here in St. Louis, although there are a lot of great shows and a lot of great perspectives. I'm interested to see your guys' perspective when we cover games, when we cover your clubs, and when we cover other things having to do with soccer in the coming weeks. Again, like you said, what we did to do to set up this show is, yes, we're going to be covering international soccer. We're going to be covering soccer here in St. Louis because there's a great soccer culture already established, and it's going to continue to establish with St. Louis City SC coming up here in just a few years. But also, again, what you guys are doing currently right now, and like Ricky talked about, this is going to be a community-based show. Local Radio STL has been an excellent member of the community, has been doing some great work, and that's why we decided to be a part of this platform, because we have the right mindset and they have the right mindset. So as far as our first few episodes, we're going to continue to evolve and continue to figure out things, and we're going to try to talk about what's important right now in the current times in St. Louis, internationally, wherever. We're going to be doing that. We're going to be bringing you different perspectives from different people. Hopefully, in the future, we'll have guests who can call in, talk about what they're doing, community or soccer related. And of course, as the seasons continue to develop, thankfully, even though COVID has been going on, the seasons everywhere else have managed to move on. Obviously, you guys were able to have games over the past few months and have some semblance of a season. We're seeing things like USL Championship, MLS continue to strive forward, the NWSL continue to have matches and continue to have seasons, and hopefully that will be the case in 2021. But again, like I said, it'll be a St. Louis perspective. Some of the topics we'll talk about city, we'll talk about your guys' clubs, obviously. Internationally, it'll be changing throughout the week, really, right? I mean, we all like different leagues and we all have different interests, and there'll be a lot of different big stories going on. Obviously, you have the Champions League that just wrapped up the group stage, so that'll be kind of out of the news for a few months, but all the other seasons now are approaching the holiday schedule, which, as we know, in the international level is just insane, some of the scheduling fixtures that we'll have. So as far as the show today, we'll have a little bit of St. Louis talk here coming up just shortly. We had a big MLS Cup Final that we're going to break down, and also we're going to give a perspective of what does it mean for our team coming up in a few years. Why is it so important to be watching now, and why the winner of the specific final, why it matters, why they won it, and how they were set up. We're going to break down an EPL match, which is the really cool thing about this platform, really cool thing about this show, is the screen behind me is not going to be idle. Ricky and Luis are going to help break down the match there, and we'll have a couple other soccer topics to wrap up the show as well. So, again, very excited to go out on this venture to have you two here to help break down things and give the coaching perspective. Well, the talk of the town here in St. Louis, of course, has been the brand new MLS club that we'll be getting here in just a couple of years. They've made some big announcements already during 2020, a couple of big hires in the front office, and of course, just lately announced some new stadium renderings of the construction site downtown. They look phenomenal, of course, and a lot of different add-ons, a lot of different aspects in terms of where certain exits, it's a very open concept. So how certain stands will look for certain fan sections. Of course, a standing room supporter section, which is really kind of the trend, not just in MLS, but in international soccer. So that's going to be really cool. Again, it's just really excited. They had that steel beam ceremony where they had fans come out and sign a steel beam as they continue to place those down. But again, recent hires in the front office have been good. They also just signed their esports representative, which is going to be cool because that's the first league that we'll get to participate in will be this EMLS season. I believe the guy's name is Hasib Zulfic, who is actually a top 10 America player and top 100 in the world. So it's really cool to have someone who's already that good and that established and who will represent St. Louis in esports. But again, it's a really exciting time right now for St. Louis City. Again, it's all new, it's all modern, and just to see what hopefully will be the finished concept already is quite impressive. I was really impressed with what they came out with. Ricky, what did you think of the stadium renderings?
I like it. I mean, it's very modern. Definitely brings an upgrade to downtown for sure. I like that they're thinking outside the stadium and how people are going to kind of congregate. I think that's very important. People before the game, after the game, and still having activities throughout. I think that's a good touch to the stadium.
Luis, what did you think of the stadium renderings?
Yeah, I think the same. It's obviously when you get a new MLS in town, it's always how it's gonna look the stadium. I think from what we see from the renderings, it looks pretty nice. It's like it's gonna be brand new, but with a different perspective of all the new things, not the regular stadiums, and all the connection with the way that the shops and then they're gonna do on the outside, and I think it will help. Like Ricky said, will help upgrade a little bit downtown in terms of that specific area.
Exactly. I think that the main thing is that we're going to continue this, not necessarily an upgrade, but this momentum that downtown seems to be having. And while the extended St. Louis community is important, downtown is kind of the hub. It's kind of mainly where things happen. And as we continue to improve that, the other outer line areas will continue to improve also. So I think that they have the right direction. Yes, it is all about the soccer, but in terms of the community and continuing to improve things downtown, I think they're on the right step there. Obviously, though, we still have some time. I think that the important thing to realize, though, is that we all want to hear big news, right? that we still do have time. We still have a couple years to get things in order. I think they already ahead of the game. They have their sporting director. They have a couple of people who will be working on the academy scouting side already. You have someone in community relations. So it's good that they're continuing to fill out the front office right now. But obviously, we're still waiting on some of the bigger names, some of the other people of the front office. Obviously, on the field, we want to hear a name for head coach soon. I know people have been already asking me about that and what I think of that in terms of who should be hired. And then, of course, obviously, those first player signings. It's been interesting to see Austin Bold FC, who will be the newest MLS club next year, already make a couple of player signings. They actually made some trades this week, and the expansion draft is coming up. So they'll begin to fill out their squad. So it's an exciting time for them, but that's what we'll have to look forward to in the coming years. What I wanted to ask about you guys, knowing that we still have a few years to go, but wanting that big news and wanting to see the direction of the club on the field. The off the field stuff's great, but see the direction on the field. What are you guys looking forward to in 2021? What do you hope for from St. Louis City? Ricky, what do you think?
Well, I think Luis will explain, even better about, building that foundation of the club from the youth up and making sure you have the right staff that is open-minded and inclusive on players and having a direct line. And Luis will definitely speak on that. Definitely a direct line from the academy to the pro staff and having a relationship. So I think that the success of St. Louis City in the long run is so vital right now on the group of coaches and staff and administrators is really putting that team together now that's cohesive and collaborative. As if you don't, then it's gonna implode.
Luis, we talk a lot about the soccer culture in St. Louis, and you're a big part of that. And it's not just really a pride thing; we want St. Louis kids to be a part of this club, but also there are a lot of great players out there, and you really just have to go out and search and make it, a priority. But because of your experience already with the academy that you're a part of, and you see all these comments that they've made so far from their front office and from the sporting director's perspective, what are you looking forward to in terms of the continued development and what they're actually saying right now that they put their words into action?
Yeah, it will be interesting to see how I mean when they get, which basically from the information from their last town hall, right, that where they kind of mentioned how the structure will be, and it's coming soon. I mean, next year they're starting with a U16 team, and then they will build up from 2022 to 23, where their first team gets the start. They will have now a full 14 all the way to under 23s. So yeah, I mean it is important. I think it's exciting for our players, for the players in our community, so they can have a pathway to to another platform, which is to get into the pro level, right? We used to have in San Luis FC, obviously with the fold-in. Now they're the ones that are gonna provide that. We still are gonna be at this point. We're part of collaborate. I will say. I think we look not only as a competitors, also because just to clarify, sometimes people guess we're gonna be the same. We're not the same as it is for now. But at some point, we want to collaborate because not having a professional team, we still as a San Luis FC, we want to provide that platform for our players to become pro. And I bet, knowing from what they're saying, what's their goal, their vision, right, in terms of having their first signing, as I heard from Lutz saying that's the first signing she come from their academy in their first year. I mean, hopefully it's one of our players that they could go into that route. Definitely, a lot of players will be interested from our club now. So the idea it is, I think from my perspective, and this is my opinion, it's we need to provide our players to help them develop and give them what is best for them. Not necessarily what it is good for the club. It is at the end we're just a facilitator for our players to accomplish what they want to do, right? Their goals, which is either collegiate level or is it pro level. So whatever it is, we want to help them. So it will be interesting to see how that goes in the next month.
Right. There's a desire from both of you guys to be a collaborator, to have your guys involved, to provide a pathway to promotion, to continue to develop their career. But I would also like to think from a city perspective is it's very difficult to start with nothing, right? To start from the ground and to have to build that up, and you only have a few short years. It would help to have some type of relationship with the St. Louis FC Academy or with Club Atletico, so that you're not starting from nothing, that you're already helping continuing to build the great foundation that you guys have put out there, and that you can get a head start and that you're not exactly starting from scratch.
Yeah,
So
and I mean, you know, my family, we're living that now with Club Atletico. We didn't exist, you know, 2 or 3 years ago, and we just popped this team up. And okay, how are we gonna get people to know we exist and all those things? And the main focus was to just get out to the community that we want to serve, that we want to see in the stands, and serve them. And what can we do? Find the key people that are doing things on the streets and the grassroots that are actually making something happen, and not go in there and take a photo with them, but say, hey, where do I need to be? Where can I do to help? And so that's helped us grind this out so far to have a following, where people come out and support us and things like that. And we have a huge following on social media, but not really. We're still not there. So St. Louis SC obviously has a much bigger platform, a much bigger budget, and they can do those things. But as long as they don't forget to the root, that the people is what's going to make the success, and all people need to be included in their vision, then we could be once again the heart of soccer America again, which is what St. Louis claims to be now.
as far as my perspective, because obviously I'm not really ingrained in an academy like you guys are, I'm interested to see in terms of the coaching hire. We've already kind of seen the international direction that the front office has gone in, and that may lead me to believe that if they're trying to model a European type style, that the coach is going to come internationally from that. And while I think that if you get the right name, and obviously with the group of players and they just click and it works, then it works. But I've kind of seen from MLS perspective that international coaches coming in, sometimes they don't work. I think mostly recently about the Atlanta situation with Frank de Boer. It just kind of just got discombobulated and it just kind of petered out, and obviously then he was let go. So you never know with those types of situations. So again, exciting times right now for St. Louis City SC with all the hirings, the stadium news, and hopefully continued optimism going into 2021 with more announcements and more things to celebrate. So while we'll have to wait until 2023 for our MLS team, there was a huge MLS match this past weekend. It was the MLS Cup Final for this crazy 2020 season that we had. MLS had to stop their season. They had kind of a playback tournament that they had down there in Orlando, Florida, and then they came back to the rest of the regular season to have their playoffs. To wrap things up on Saturday, it was the Columbus Crew SC hosting Seattle Sounders. The Crew were massive underdogs, and that even got even worse the day before when it was announced two of their best players, Darlington Nagbe and Pedro Santos, were going to be out due to COVID-related reasons. Seattle have just been fantastic. Obviously, they've won previous MLS Cups the past few years, but they have a great front three with Nicholas Ladero, Raul Ruidiaz, and Jordan Morris that can score a ton of goals. So it's going to be tough for Columbus to keep up with that type of firepower. Well, it did end up being a blowout. It just ended up being a blowout the other way. Columbus won 3-0. The MVP of the match, Lucas Zelarayan, scored 2 goals and set up the other. Fantastic performance by him. The Crew, I thought, in terms of the match, was they were really dominant on the outside. They really pegged Seattle back to their offense. They weren't really able to get out of their own end. And they just attacked these outside backs with some fury. They really were able to create a lot of offense from the outside, and they just kept their foot on the pedal. We saw Seattle come back in the semifinals versus Minnesota, and that's because I thought Minnesota played very conservative in the second half and tried not to lose. Columbus continued to keep their foot on the gas, continue to push for more goals. I think that's what helped lead to the victory. So it was their second ever MLS Cup. Congrats to them. I don't know if you guys have heard, but of course they were close to losing their team a few years ago when the owner actually wanted to move them to Austin. Obviously that didn't happen. The owner obviously got his own team in Austin. The fans saved the Crew, and now those fans are rewarded with an MLS Cup. So I think that's just a beautiful story and a successful story, not so much for MLS, but for those fans in general. But basically, I wanted to talk about why should fans care now, St. Louis fans who are excited about MLS coming here, why should they care now about this particular result and about MLS in general? And I think it has to do with the fact of how the team was built for Columbus. And I think this is something that St. Louis should really adopt. I think there's going to be 4 main groups of players that St. Louis should try to have on their team in order to be successful. Starts with the academy, like we just talked about. Columbus had a guy, I think it was either Aiden Morris or Aiden something, who was one of their first like academy guys to get major time, and he was a huge part of the win. He was in the holding midfield, completely broke up play, and just stories like that, having that base, having that feel of showing promotion like you guys talked about in terms of the young players getting a chance at the next level. I think that's one part of it. Second part of it that may not necessarily with Columbus, but with St. Louis because we have that soccer culture. I want to see a couple St. Louis guys, who are from here, who know all about soccer, who've gone through all the youth systems, Scott Gallagher, or playing even in church leagues. I want to have those guys that really know what it means to play in St. Louis. And then the two other bigger parts that will cost a little bit more money and will be a bigger part. I think MLS veterans. I think that some of the clubs that have been successful, look at Nashville in their first season. They made the playoffs. They won a couple of matches. And I think that's due to the fact that they were able to bring in a couple of free agents who had a lot of MLS experience and were able to help lead that club in some different areas. I think about Dax McCarty. I think about Joe Willis in goal, who's also from St. Louis, who were able to really help lead that team. And the last being designated players, basically those stars. We're not going to get I've read jokes like, oh, Lionel Messi's going to come to St. Louis, or some big star is going to come here to St. Louis. And I'm like, that's probably not going to happen. But we're going to have those slots where you can bring in international players who have a ton of experience, a ton of talent. Some may be younger, like what Atlanta did a few years ago, where they brought in a couple of young guys and were able to win that cup. Or they could be established stars that, maybe not at the tail end of their career. They still have something left and they have something to prove. And St. Louis will be there and ready to take up those spots. So I have those four things down. I thought Columbus had three of those four that really helped push them to this win. Obviously, they also had a great coach, which will be a part of it. I don't know about you guys. In terms of the player perspective, how do you think St. Louis City should be lined up in order to have the most success in their first year?
Well, I had breakfast with Lutz, I don't know, a couple months ago or something like that. We talked about the system and he has his hand on the style of play for sure, and he gets to pick. He does want to have that German influence of a direct style of play, a fast-paced game. He's not interested in keeping the ball as much as getting up there and getting chances and getting high up the field. So I think when it comes to players and the success, they're going to have to play that way because the sporting director has a big role right now. So from the youth academy on up, they are going to all have to play that way, and the players they bring in have to fit into the style if that's the culture of the team. There are professional teams out there where the coach can change the culture of the team. And then there's quality clubs out there as well that they stay, kind of in their cultural way, and they bring people in that can emphasize those things. So I think that it's just going to have to be a good collaboration of players. But in my opinion, if you play just one way, if you have players that just are used to this, then you're going to go against teams that you can't hang with. That style isn't going to work anymore. So they're going to have to diversify, the style a little bit, and with the players that they select too. I see that too much in St. Louis collegiate soccer and even club soccer, where they just play a certain way, and the child grows up playing that way, and then they go out of state, they go out of town, and they just don't understand how to play differently, and unfortunately, it doesn't work out.
Coach Luis, you know a lot about in terms of an academy. You're always going to get players from all different types of areas who play certain styles, and it's all about folding them into one and getting them to play one certain style together in order to get those wins. What St. Louis City will have to do on a major scale is, in terms of roster construction, they will have all these different options of where they'll be able to get players and how they'll be able to fill out their squad. What do you think in terms of the direction, a little bit what Ricky talked about, in terms of folding all those guys together into one particular style that they want to play?
Well, definitely it has to. I mean, there's two separate things, which will be the academy and then the first team. Now, the question will be how much connection is going to be one with the other one, right? Is the youth academy feeding up the first team? Is it two things separated, even though they're connected, but they're separate because they have different, I would say, different ways of operating, even though it's the same guy, because it happens with many MLS teams where you see, for example, Seattle, you see their first team. It's you don't see many players coming from their youth academy towards their first team. You see they're going to your four things that you mentioned. They're more focused into what designated players they come. They want to compete. They want to win, obviously, but you can see that there's two separate. So is the academy Well, what's the goal of their academy? It's not necessarily, feeding up the first team. It's more okay. From a certain period of time, maybe we can get one. Maybe we can get in 4 years. They're not worried about that. Now, what I mentioned, what Lutz said in the beginning, right, in the tone hole was, I want to put the first player in from San Luis, and then the connection as well from your one of your points is having people from the area, which we know that, especially what I get to know more about the community, people has pride about what you produce in your area. So, uh, uh, sorry, I think all those things are important for him as the leader to get to try to get how he's gonna connect all those dots based on the influence, obviously, like Ricky said, based on the influence from Germany that he has, and he can connect all the dots to in order to make it work, right?
And you can throw a Latino player in there because Chicharito went over and played in the Bundesliga. There was a couple players. Pardo went over there. So our hopes obviously is some of the Latino influence in this style of play. That's what I would like to see. LAFC is pretty darn direct, and they have a mixture of players from all around. So I don't think it has to be European players to fit the mold.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we've heard some reports about this potential relationship between MLS and Liga MX, and we've seen an influx of Liga MX players coming into the league be extremely successful. And obviously we know.
But you have an example, sorry, there about LAFC, that there's the youth academy trying to feed, even though they're a competitor. But Bob Bradley is gonna put players that, for example, 16 years old playing in semifinals now. You got Columbus using some of those guys like Aiden Morris that just got their debut. It was funny because we played him a year ago. He was playing because Columbus is in our same conference, and our guys get to have the chance to play versus those guys, and now they're playing in a final in a team. But it is important what it is, what at the end the vision of in this case of San Luis City, how they're gonna operate in terms of, okay, what are their goals, their outcome goals? Do we gonna put 20% of our players from our academy? We need to have it, or 25% of born players from we're gonna bring them back and feed it, and then you're gonna have all those type of goals that they're gonna make and build the team. We're gonna have a player from Bosnia. Why? Because there's a huge community of Bosnia, for example. Yeah, and I agree with Ricky. But you need, I think, even though there is an influence on things you do, there's always something, an ingredient to the pot to melt the pot, right? And I'm not saying because I am, but you need to have not just, and this is one thing, that you need to be more open, not just because you have influence. Obviously, that's the major part, but you also need to have something that it gives you something different, right?
Right. I think the big word here is connection, right? Connection to the fans and to the area. What people really get invested in this team is when they know that they're supporting their own. Just to go outside of soccer for a moment, talk about the St. Louis Cardinals. Cardinals have a great history and a great group of guys that aren't obviously from St. Louis and obviously from different cultures. You're talking about Yachty or Wayno and all these other different guys. Obviously, they're not with the team right now, but in years past. But also, there's a guy like David Freese, who's from here, went to high school in St. Louis, and you have that certain other connection with him because he is one of our own. So I think that having that connection to the city is great, but also, like you said, Coach, and with Dane Morris and having that type of success where it's confirmation of why you have an academy, why you do all this work, why these guys go out and bust it week after week after week. It's so that they know they can get to this level and have this success. It's basically confirms all of that hard work.
Everyone's going to have to come forward. I mean, every club in St. Louis would have to really collaborate. And I think Lutz is trying to do that is, you have the two big clubs in St. Louis. Obviously, they get bigger every day. And if only players are coming from there, it's going to ruffle. But if all the clubs are on board and the organization is doing coaching education for all, I'm sure, obviously, St. Louis City is going to produce a large percentage of players over there. Mm-hmm. But if everyone's on board on the development side to get to that point, St. Louis is so rich with soccer, and the opportunity could be great for this club. You want to see a kid from out South St. Charles, from Fairmont, South City, North County, all having that equal opportunity, and that's my biggest thing with it.
Exactly. Well, these are things to be thinking about right now for the future. And if you're looking for around here, St. Louis fans, to get invested in MLS early, these are things to start picking up at different clubs. What do you like about certain clubs? Where are they getting their players? What's the direction? We've seen what works. We've seen what not works. And I think that will be on City, obviously, the next few years to figure that out for themselves. So, again, exciting times. It was a good MLS Cup final. Congrats to Columbus. And looking forward to next year. Hopefully, it's a little bit more of a normal season. But again, right now, MLS, it continues to grow. And once we get there, it's going to be Premier Soccer League. It already is, but I think it'll be even better here in a couple of years. All right, to close out the episode today, we want to kind of do this on a consistent basis. We want to talk a lot about what's going on in the St. Louis community. Obviously, that's a big part of what Local Radio STL is all about. And also, Ricky, a lot of your work in the community, not just through Club Atletico, but through some of your other business dealings. You're very active and know a lot about what people need, especially during this time of the year. During the holidays, it's a big time to give back to the community. So we kind of want to let people know about a few options if they're really looking to donate their time or the resources or other matters during the holiday season, what they should be looking out for. So tell us a little bit about some of those community dealings that people should know about.
Yeah, this is one of the favorite parts of the show. It's going to be is showcasing people doing good things in the community. Here it hits close to home for all of us. We're happy to be a part of this new venture with local radio, and they are actually doing something pretty amazing themselves in the community that I'd like to showcase what they're doing. So if you would like to donate canned goods and coats and gently used clothing and for 5 years and up, Kyle Garcia here at Local Radio will be accepting donations. You can hit him up, DM him on social media on all Local Radio's platforms. And, they're going to be collecting for the Lou Tribe Food Drive, the first annual, as well as contribute to the 100 Coat Kids Drive. And I think those two are really special things. They're always doing things from what I know, Kyle. And there are a lot of people doing good things throughout the city. There are organizations doing well, but I don't want to overload everyone with information right now. Let's get this out, and we can continuously post things like this on our own social media, so people can, if they want to support, they can. And you can just reach out to our AtleticoTV Facebook page.
Because I think it's important during this time. Obviously, there are tons of different organizations that you can donate to, but there are just some that have a little bit trouble in terms of the resources they have about getting the message out. That's a lot of what we're going to be doing on this show, is getting the word out about some organizations that maybe you haven't heard of before that deal with helping, those less fortunate than other people.
Yeah, and we've been a part of that personally, and obviously with Club Atletico last Christmas. There's the kids that get these things, they need the jackets. They don't have warm enough jackets. The kids that get, this might be the only toy that this kid gets for Christmas. Things are tough. So now, especially with COVID, there's even more economic barriers. So if you can give, even if it's a little, just, there's people out there who really do need it. And this is the giving time of year.
And hopefully, sometimes from time to time, we might have a guest on from an organization to help, give a more direct message of what they're doing. I would say this, you guys can agree with me or not. We hope that you guys come for the soccer, but if you take away anything from this show, it's all about investing in the St. Louis community and those organizations that desperately need it and desperately do good work. So, again, we're really excited to have this a part of the show and to infuse soccer sometimes with it. I think those are your great moments. Soccer is a world game. It brings together people, it brings together cultures and generations, and, again, gives people different perspective. And, again, putting those two things together, it just doesn't get any better. So again, especially with the work that's already being done. So we're really excited to be a part of Local Radio STL and to have this new show. We're really excited to continually do this on a weekly basis. And obviously, soccer is always going on. I think that's one of my favorite things about it, is that every day there's something going on. There's some match happening that people can tune in, and hopefully we'll get to as many as we possibly can. So thanks to Ricky. Thanks to Luis. Again, both of you guys' clubs are on social media. We'll be able to get out the social media tags for our new show and to plug what you guys are doing online with St. Louis Academy and with Club Atletico St. Louis. If you're looking for some of my new content, I have my own YouTube show on my YouTube channel, the Gateway to Soccer Show. where I go a little bit more in depth on some of the other soccer dealings on the outside, try to get guests when I can. Ricky was just on the last show, went really well.
It did.
Hopefully continuing to do that. But otherwise, yeah, we'll be getting our social media up here in just a little bit and be able to post a lot more content for you guys to check out. So really excited to be a part of this new venture with Local Radio STL. Our thanks to our producer, Keith. Our thanks to Travis on the board, and our thanks to owner Kyle Garcia for joining us in this new venture and providing us a platform to not just talk about soccer, but talk about St. Louis and to talk about the community. So that'll do it for this episode of AtleticoTV. We can't wait to be talking with you guys again in the coming weeks. Thank you very much.